A quick note before we begin. If you enjoy this podcast, please head over to theauthorinside.you.com and click the subscribe button. Thanks. And now, on with the show.
You're listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Today, our guest is Ryan Montoya, author of The Pilgrim's Ladder. Ryan's a student at the University of Colorado Boulder, pursuing a master's degree in electrical and computer engineering. His interests are in mountaineering and philosophy and the intersection of the two. Welcome, Ryan. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, good to be here.
Well, congratulations, Ryan. It's pretty exciting that your book was just released a couple of weeks ago. How does that feel?
It's crazy, actually getting it out there has been a challenge, I think, for me personally, just since it is kind of revealing about myself. And so it's actually been, I'd say quite revealing, but I think rewarding at the same time.
Great. And how did you get the idea to write a book?
That's, that has a lot of history to it, actually. I essentially used to pursue truth kind of as my quintessential goal, and kind of about the time of my life in college when I started to realize that truth was something that was so difficult for me to grasp. There was kind of a paradigm shift for me when I started to see a lot of beauty in life and in climbing, in what I was doing, mountaineering, and it made a huge difference in my life. And I'd never really written much before. So for something like that it was philosophical for me, but at the same time very difficult to nail down in terms of like rationally and concretely. I thought that telling it through a fiction would probably be the best way, and it was actually really rewarding for me to put it in paper. It really kind of made it more concrete, something that was just an idea.
So it sounds like it was kind of therapeutic for you also?
I would say so, definitely.
Well, that's good.
And then did you write it while you were in college, or how long have you been working on the book before, since it just was published?
So I was writing it in college. I wrote it my senior year of college, so I guess it was last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was busy. I had senior projects and everything, but found time in the evenings. Yeah, it was a very slow process for me. I mean, I would write a couple paragraphs to a page a night, but it was enough because it actually took me a lot of preparation just to get in the mood for writing it. Okay. So it took some work, but it was worth it every time.
Did you take any classes in college, like related to writing or related to journalism?
As engineers, they try very hard to give us some humanities classes and make us a little more well-rounded, but I can't say they do a fantastic job. So I had a couple of humanities courses that were kind of catered towards engineers. So they were like writing light. Mm-hmm. And so I had a little bit of experience writing in those courses, and that was probably as close as I got to writing fiction. But really, fiction wasn't really anything I'd done since, it must have been like junior high when I played around with it a little bit.
And then the book is about a mountain climber, or about mountaineering or the outdoors?
Yeah, it's about, so it's kind of set in a time period that isn't specific. It's almost like a kind of like a fantasy, alternative world, where a man basically has it in his head that he wants to see something he's been told about that's on the other side of this range, this great mountain range that kind of separates him from the north. And he wants to go see what that is. He basically just has this kind of insatiable urge to go and doesn't quite understand it. And so as he starts climbing and going through this mountain range, he kind of sees the appeal of climbing itself and starts to try and climb the peaks themselves. And it is kind of that same sort of It's very allegorical for, I guess, my own paradigm shift where I went from seeking more truth to kind of seeing the beauty in nature and I guess like sublime beauty maybe would be a good way to describe it.
So how did you make this a reality? So you have this idea, you decide you're going to do this, but I mean, everyone wants to write a book. How did you actually become an author?
Yeah, it was strange because, I'd never really tried anything like it before. I talked to my dad a lot, actually. We share a lot of emails. So a lot of these thoughts had been kind of brewing for a while, sitting at the top of my mind. And it was really just finding the right outlet for it to where it just clicked. Because I've been trying to communicate, trying to think about it, trying to talk to friends, and just nothing was really working. And these ideas weren't really, I think, taking the right form. And then when I found this story, I was kind of just thinking about it one night, and I got a basic idea for at least the setting that felt appropriate to tell the story, and started writing. And it was fascinating. It was so therapeutic is a great word for it, that I just couldn't stop. If I didn't write, every other night, it would weigh on me. And I just feel compelled to do it again. And I love to walk, so in the evenings I would go for a long walk and think and try and put myself in the mood, especially if I was having trouble writing, because certainly writer's block is an issue, and a lot of times with school on my mind and all that thing, I just didn't want to really put the effort in. So I'd kind of force myself to either, go climbing, go hiking, do these things and reflect, and they would put me back in that place where I could write again. But it was a weird experience for me. I mean, I think I just kind of discovered that was my outlet, and I never had before.
Well, then, after you were finished writing the book, what did you do? What were your thoughts on getting it published? What were your actions after you had it completed?
I'm terrible at self-promotion and trying to get it out to people.
It's a difficult thing to do sometimes, yes.
It is really hard. When I was kind of thinking about getting it published, of course, I'd love it if a publisher actually wanted to take it and do that sort of thing, but with me being kind of shy and not wanting to get it out there like that, I opted for self-publishing because I had an uncle who did the same thing with his book, and I liked the result. His book, it looked right, and the kind of print-on-demand sort of, the ease of getting it out there to your friends through like Amazon was very appealing. And so I thought that'd be a great way. It would force me to put the finishing touches on the book, and get it out there, and then see where it goes. Hopefully, if somebody picked it up and they liked it, well, we see where we go from there. But doing the self-publishing route was a fantastic way to just kind of motivate those last few steps, because those are always the hardest.
And then what about an editor or someone proofreading it? I mean, certainly you must have had somebody, since it's a story, it makes sense in your head, but you have to make sure that it makes sense to the reader.
My immediate family was pretty much my editors and proofreaders. I would forward little bits of it to my parents and my sister. They'd read it, make the corrections as necessary, and that's
a great idea.
It.
It's inexpensive, that's for sure.
And I saw, I read that your sister did the illustrations for your book.
She did.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Very nice. Your book looks wonderful. And then,
I'm so happy with how it turned out. It's gorgeous.
Well, this sounds like a nice opportunity for your family to bond. Also, another opportunity to bond.
Yeah, it was. I guess my sister and her artwork. I've always been kind of afar, just looking at it, and she's doing the same thing. She's trying to get her art out. She does a lot of different art. She's been selling it on Etsy. She's now trying to work in Redbubble. So she has a website actually where she does these things. And so since I was working on this and she'd been kind of following my book, we kind of agreed that she would do the artwork. So she did the cover and all the internal illustrations. Wow. And I never thought my book would look so good. So yeah, it was really fun to work with her on it, and I loved what she did. And her site, if anybody's interested,
Yeah, let's
Sure.
throw a plug out there.
yeah. So her site is kirabarsotti.com, KiraBarsotti.com.
Great.
And right there you can see all of her work. And she does a fantastic job, and is really passionate about what she does too, and not just about her art, but these same sort of ideas and things that were in my book. So it was a real treat working with her on that.
The book cover looks wonderful, and I got to see a little bit of the inside also. Very, very nice.
Well, that's really fun that you got to do it as a family, right? I mean, your parents helped you out, your sister helped you out. That is really cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was very lucky to have that, I think.
Yeah, another bonding experience for your family. Very nice.
And as a parent, I'll say I'm sure your parents were very happy too.
Yeah, and very proud of you.
I hope so.
So then you had your book put together, and then what service did you find that actually helped you self-publish to print the...
So I used CreateSpace,
Okay.
Amazon company, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I went with Lulu for a little while, but then I liked the process of the CreateSpace, their portal and their interface a lot better.
And then what are you doing to promote the book?
Boy, I haven't done enough, but it's been Facebook primarily, and the my recent incident in the mountains, talking about bad things with hopefully good opportunities. It did actually get the book out a lot more.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Life is funny like that.
So I guess if you're in the news, right?
Yeah.
If you're in the news,
Find a way in the news.
right?
No,
might as well
don't
promote
do
your
what
book.
Yeah. Promotion was something I've been thinking about, but then when everything kind of happened in the last week with my climbing accident, I just haven't had time to think about it. I mean, it's been so recent that it's actually been published.
Yeah.
I need to put more thought in.
Right. Well, it sounds like it would be an interesting book for a high school class, maybe. It might attract kids to reading who aren't necessarily big readers by being an outdoors book and being about hiking. And it's kind of like breaking, and like thinking about philosophy. I don't think a lot of high school kids think about philosophy very much. So that might be an interesting route to maybe promote it to high school teachers.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious if any high schooler would actually enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sure they would. Yeah.
Maybe. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope, the few people who have read it and gotten back to me have identified the way I hope they would with it, because I think a lot of us do have that kind of itch or urge to go and do something, to see something incredible. But sometimes it's difficult to place why. And it's hard to motivate yourself to take risks, especially.
Oh, yeah.
That's mountain climbing. You take huge risks, and the rewards are tremendous, but the consequences are just as great.
Right.
So my book is kind of a challenge, I think, to take those risks.
So before we started the interview, Leah and I saw your book on Amazon, and we saw you have a number of 5-star reviews. That's fantastic for a book that's only been out a number of days. How did you do that?
Well, a couple of them are, I think, a couple of friends of mine, or maybe not friends of mine, but people who heard about my climbing accident and then said, oh, this guy's, did something cool. Well, I'm going to give his book a good review and then buy it. But a couple of those, I think, I don't know. I would just hope that the people who did read it and left a good review, I hope that they connected, I mean, I guess I do believe that even if mountain climbing maybe isn't really a topic that we can all relate to, I think that the fundamental ideas are something that I personally believe is relevant to today's culture, that sort of thing. We live in a very safe environment, and I think it's important to take more of those risks and live that more adventurous lifestyle with balance, of course. But I think I really hope that it provides an insight into people who are motivated that way, and hopefully inspire some people who already feel that way.
Good.
That would be my hope for it, and maybe those people felt that way.
Well, you must feel a sense of accomplishment, getting the book out and getting the nice reviews, and also, like you said, therapeutic. So, you must feel very good about yourself right now. Congratulations. Very fun.
Well, thanks. It does feel good. It's strange, again, it was kind of a thing I just felt like I had to do.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like a lot of things in my life, it's kind of like I just feel an urge to do it. Same thing with climbing. It's kind of like, it's almost like, what would my hero do? Well, he would do that, so I'm going to try and do that.
Well, good. That's
I feel like I'd be foolish not to. So.
Right.
Well, that's good to know, though. That's excellent, because here you are, a young man, and what you just said, it would be foolish not to, when there's so many people, myself included, who have ideas or thoughts but are too afraid to do it. I don't know what holds us back, but we, like you just said, you'd be foolish not to. So, hey, I like that. Thank you for saying that. I think that hopefully it hit me, hopefully it will hit others.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem, it's a fear of, I guess, pain and suffering, and
yeah,
again, with climbing and all that, it wouldn't be a mountain climb if you didn't suffer and have some pain. So
okay.
It's all part of the picture, and fear is part of that picture too. So
very nice.
I don't know.
Good.
Well, Ryan, we have two last questions for you. One is, what's your best advice to fellow authors who are working on a book right now? And number two is, what's a great way for our listeners to get in touch with you?
My advice is maybe not universal, so I guess everybody's going to have to do it for themselves, but I would take time. It's tricky, the creative process. You can't force it. I would try and go in and I'd be like, I got to write every day. Well, that didn't work out very quickly. But I actually found that when I took time to do nothing, my mind was naturally drawn towards my book, and those ideas. So if I did nothing, if I just went for a walk and I told myself, I'm going to go for this walk, and I'm not necessarily going to come back and write, but I'm just going to make time to think. And then if I would be drawn to it, I would go back and write. And I think if you've got something on your mind that's important enough, that's just going to happen as long as you make the time for it. Busyness is kind of the enemy. That would be my advice, and maybe it's not the right advice for an author, but that's what works for me.
No, I understand. So yeah. I think you're saying don't force yourself. If you force yourself every day at 2 o'clock, it's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to work the same for everybody. And you found it to work best to give yourself some space and then come up with ideas. I think that's great advice.
I guess the second question, to get in touch with me, probably easiest is Facebook. Facebook has been good for a lot of things lately, actually. My Facebook, I'm Ryan Montoya. I suppose possibly email could work as well. But Facebook is probably the easiest way.
Okay, and we'll have a link on the show notes?
Yep, we will put a link there.
And what about if people want to purchase the book? What's the best way?
They want to purchase the book, Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime. I guess additionally, I'm putting together a website, ryandmontoya.com, and there'll be a link there as well to the Amazon site. And hopefully when I come out with some more books, and I'm planning on maybe doing some blogging even, tossing up a couple of ideas, but it should be available on that site if people are interested.
So with the books on Amazon, so you set a certain number of books to be printed and you keep some at your home and then Amazon has some at their warehouse, or how does that work?
Well, as far as I understand it, they just kind of print on demand. So, which is incredible because it's Prime, and so they get it out in 2 days. So they're printing it and sending it off. I don't have to put any, I don't have to print a certain number and hope that they sell.
Oh,
they They just do it as people order it. It's incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like a good.
It's a great deal. Plus,
It's a great deal.
Right, you get a larger percentage of the profit too than if you were to do it through a traditional publisher.
Yeah, exactly. And since, I'm not going to sell as many as if I was with a publisher, that's pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, congratulations again. Congratulations.
Yep, and thank you, Ryan, for being our guest today. And thanks for listening to the Author Inside You podcast. And until next time,
right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.